starting with the 100 policy, is that right? So 101.
We have 103.
Like I said, 103. I get my glasses off so I can read. Where the pictures back.
Are you not muted now? Tracy, because
I'm not. Do you want me to mute myself?
no, I want Elizabeth to be able to hear you. I just want to make sure Elizabeth can hear us.
So going down 103, delegate responsibility as you state your head and director of special education, is that right? That's one thing.
103.
And policy number 103. Down to where it says delegation of responsibility, the fourth, this paragraph down.
Yeah.
First sentence there under that category, director of special education ed. We're on the same frequency now.
Yes and no, because Christina, correct me if I'm wrong here, that's not who you have as the person to report to.
No. We didn't go through that. 103.
No, that's right, that's what I mean. I think that's part of what,
What we're doing now.
I think so, yes.
So do I need to make those changes in the draft?
I didn't go into the draft.
If you want to, Tracy, you can. I mean, I can do it as well, but I would say I want to.
Go back to the very first paragraph of 103. It says regardless of race, color, age, creed, religion, sex.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I really can't hear anyone. It sounds like everyone's talking in like a underground bubble. I haven't heard barely one sentence yet.
I think that's because Tracy's got the sound on and she's sitting too far away from Wayne who's talking.
Oh,
So we're
okay. Now
gonna
you
switch
came.
some seats here, Elizabeth.
Oh, that's super terrific. Yeah. Now you just came through perfect. That's the first real voice I've heard. Hello. Thank you.
I agree, Elizabeth. I was having problems too.
Oh, can you hear everything now, Jeff?
I heard Jackie fine. The rest was a little tough to hear.
Oh, good, good. Because they go pretty quick.
I'm gonna mute my machine so Tracy can turn hers on and she can unmute. You should be able to hear because she's in the middle of the room now.
Oh, God, my hair's a mess.
All right, Tracy, are you unmuted?
Yes.
And Elizabeth and Jeff, if you could give us a thumbs up as to whether or not you can hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes. Much better.
Mr. Koch, I have a quick question. I only heard little blurps when you guys first were, setting things up. Now, and I understand that there's certain policies that all of a sudden the district slammed with, you got to deal with ASAP. I got that part, but what I didn't hear is the way that they're set up here on the screen. Are those for priority or are those just because they're in numerical order?
We're starting with policy number 103. That's the first one on the agenda. Got that?
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that Jackie and administration, everybody, we cover however she wants to prioritize it or you prioritize it. I just wasn't sure how that was happening. Because I know, like she said, we probably can't get through all of this. I don't know.
We're starting with policy number 103.
Yeah, we're starting with 103 and we're gonna run down through the list. What I was explaining to Wayne prior to opening the official meeting was that there are several policies that need to be passed by the 14th because of Title IX updates. If we're not comfortable passing these policies because they are very lengthy, but we're passing them because of we need to pass them because of
Right.
legislation. If
Okay.
we're not prepared to pass them as PSBA suggests by tomorrow evening, then the board will have to pass a resolution stating that we'll follow the rules of Title IX and legislation while we're working on the policies. The Title IX changes are very, significant in process and procedure. And I would like Mark and Christina to explain those when we get to those specific policies.
Okay.
And then what Wayne's proposing is that we start numerical order and flow down through them, but we do not have time because of all of them to dissect them verbatim. So we're going to have to determine whether or not we want to pass them as PSBA suggests, or if we want to table them and just put them up for first read and pass them, after multiple reads. And then additionally, what I was suggesting to Wayne was that I know that the pronoun usage has been something that has been brought up on every policy.
Absolutely.
And so what I was suggesting is that Mark and I make sure, and Christina, that any policies that come through suggested by PSBA that say he, she, that we would automatically adjust the pronoun usage as you've been suggesting policy by policy, but instead of pulling it out of every single one for a discussion, we
Right.
would just take care of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Just a quick FYI, when they had a training on policy, months ago, PSBA, that was one of the comments that was made by a couple people during those webinars. And PSBA said, yes, we're very well aware of it, and we're going to try to keep changing that. For some reason, they seem to be locked into that, but they know it. Hopefully you don't find a lot, but that's it.
Mark says they seem to be less prevalent.
Great.
Is-
So I think Wayne just wants to go down through, and each administrator that is relative to that policy can just speak to it and give you a summary.
Okay, we're on policy number 103. Okay. And in the very first sentence, I'm suggesting changing the word sex to gender. I think it's such a thing with me, I guess. Gender's more respectable than sex, could I say.
Is it possible to enlarge the shared view, or should we go into a different program?
We're still we're going right down through policy number 103. We started with the first paragraph. We're going on down to anything in bold print is recommended change.
Oh, yes, thank you very much, Wayne, but is it possible whoever's manning the shared screen, if it could be enlarged so the text is readable, or should we go into a different program?
I would go into board docs and pull it up.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Thank you.
Okay, ready to move on?
I don't know if it would be best if maybe we just give an overview of some of the changes, because the changes are there are quite a few changes.
Okay,
I would start by saying that some of the definitions have changed in terms of sexual assault, sexual harassment. I would say that's some of the biggest change in terms of definitions. And also then in terms of how Title IX complaints are to be handled. There are several rules now that are delineated through the policy, where we've got to have a Title IX coordinator person, then we have to have investigator, an informal investigator, a first line decision maker, and then an appeal decision maker. And through all of that, essentially all administrators are going to have to go through the 6-hour training that Christina and I have sat through the last couple of days. And then we will have to identify those, I would say, positions in the policy as to who those people are, without naming specific names in the policy, so we don't have to continually change policy as people change.
But on page 6 of the PSBA recommendation changes, now it says that we have to identify who that person is. Now,
We can't hear you. This isn't gonna work unless everybody that's talking has to unmute. We're gonna get all this feedback. You can't really do a Zoom meeting with individuals on Zoom in the same room. If we're gonna do this in the future, we need to set up a Zoom room.
I don't how do I unmute?
I'll mute and
I think I can mute everyone at one time.
so we have to name who the Title IX coordinator, compliance officer is. They can be the same person in this policy on page 6. Now, my question is, can we just say that the director of people services is the district's compliance officer and Title IX coordinator, and then list the address? But I would have to list my email, so it would make, like, you have to personalize it. So I think anytime that there would be a change for who the coordinator is, we just have to update the policy.
Well, I also believe that we could create an email, a district email called Title IX Compliance @kcsd. And
Oh,
we could
okay.
put that in there, and then we could control who has access to that account and
Right,
password.
and then the phone number.
And a phone number.
So,
I feel like that generic, we should do that instead of put your personal district.
in the
address.
policy, that might be fine, but otherwise it's gonna have to go everywhere else to be shared with specifically who I am.
I thought that in policy,
Yeah.
we could say position, but on the district website, in any other documentation, we have to
Right.
specifically name you.
Right, but
Fine.
you also have to list
Right.
the
Correct.
contact information as well. So that was.
I just have a quick question.
Which
I hate
wouldn't
to
be a big
interrupt.
deal, because I can't imagine that would be a position that would change frequently, and given the status of everything, I think we've got a greater chance of updating it because of language update.
Okay, let's proceed with this, by whatever means to facilitate this as fast as possible. So, Mark, I guess you're on.
Well, again, there's just so much to this in terms of, I'm mute here. There's just so much to this policy that, in terms of change and how things are to be done, and in conjunction with then policy 104 and some of the changes that would take place with that, it basically outlines the procedures, the step-by-step procedures that we have to follow if a Title IX complaint comes in. And I would also say that based on the definition of sexual harassment, sexual assault, and sexual misconduct in general, based on the policy, Christina, as the coordinator, is going to be very busy. Because a lot of things will have to be run through her to determine what path the complaint would go down, whether it be a traditional disciplinary path or a Title IX path. And if it's a Title IX path, there again are very specific procedures and individuals that would have to be involved in the process, that would be outlined in the policy itself. So there would be an identified investigator, which I would say probably most of the times would be a building principal, for student-related issues. For staffing issues, it could potentially be a principal or myself. or any of the other district administrators really. I would probably view superintendent, Jackie more as the appeal person.
Now, I can, as a coordinator, cannot be the decision maker. So once we go through the investigation and we have all of the evidence, I cannot be the decision maker as to whether or not it was a Title IX violation or not. So
I'm
as
sorry,
a
again,
coordinator, I could not be the decision maker. So once we go through the process to determine whether or not this was a Title IX violation and we collect all of the information, someone else would have to be identified as the decision maker. And I don't know, Mark, if that could be you, if you are not listed as a coordinator, but you have another role. Because they recognize that it could be difficult to find different individual people for all of these roles, depending on the size and the structure of your organization. So we would have to figure out who would be the best person for that, because that's going to be something that person is going to be involved in all cases, as would I.
I have a quick question. Obviously, there's some major reason why this has become a critical situation. I don't want to waste anyone's time to try to delve into that. My question is, since they're placing all these extra layers on the districts, and it would be, everyone already has so many job responsibilities, and sounds like this is a really critical person, this coordinator and the person that decides. Seriously, again, what does PSBA suggest, and what are other districts doing? Are they having micromanagers, a couple of different ones? Are they just having one lead one? Because this could take time.
I'm gonna go to my office because this isn't gonna work.
I mean, I want to make sure that we keep this as simple and as possible, whatever you.
Okay. And that, can I talk now? Okay. But now it says my internet connection is unstable. So basically what I wanted to do was, if my understanding, I didn't do the training, the two of you have done the training, but my understanding of the purpose behind the changes, the drive behind the changes really came out of the Office of Civil Rights, and a lot of the sexual harassment situations, mostly female in the workplace, that have come forward, in which these females who have been harassed around the country have been saying that I did report it, it was investigated and was unfounded. And so that the changes are maybe more putting some checks and balances in the process for complaints. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's checks and balances in place, but it also protects the accused. So we can't identify them as guilty right away. We cannot, if we're going to investigate it, we cannot issue consequences to them right away until it becomes a founded Title IX situation.
Okay, and then let me add something else. The other part I wanted to add, Elizabeth, was your question, what are other districts doing? Because here again is another unfunded mandate that's being placed upon schools. So what schools have had to have Title IX compliance officers named in the past. And in our previous policy, it was the Director of Pupil Services. If I remember correctly, we changed that last year when we added a Director of Pupil Services. Prior to that, the Special Ed Director had it. But remember, the Special Ed Director, who was drowning, had all the responsibilities that a Pupil Services Director and a Special Ed Director have. So we've already split those out. So even though the training is important, I suspect that with these changes, there may be more cases that come forward, but typically, even in the 18 months I've been here, I think we've had one situation in which we've had to investigate, if that helps you. So I wasn't thinking of asking for more staffing, but simply keeping Christina, Mark, myself closely in the loop, and then training the other individuals involved. But since this is so detailed, I personally am not comfortable, since I haven't had the training and I'm seeing the documents for the first time today, jamming them through at tomorrow night's meeting. I feel that we should take a little more time to bring these back to the board. And therefore, in lieu of passing the policies, I would recommend that we pass the resolution that was mentioned earlier today, that we'll follow those laws, because we have people in the district who are trained and will follow it. Which
Okay,
gives them the authority to follow the law.
so the resolution will be put on the agenda tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Everybody agreed? You agree, Elizabeth?
Absolutely. I was hoping we were going in this direction and you confirmed it. I'm totally 100%. Thank you.
Okay, so,
The resolution specifically says, it's Board Resolution 117, effective August 14th, and until the school board adopts a comprehensive policy, the school district shall comply with and implement all requirements to the Title IX regulations. Any existing policies or practices that are inconsistent with or in violation of the requirements, terms, or conditions of Title IX are hereby suspended effective August 14th. And then it says that I have the power and authority regarding Title IX to designate, and there's a whole bunch of things to adopt and so forth. So what we would do is, between now and the following board meeting, is we would be better prepared to have the policies and procedures in place. I mean, they were trained Wednesday through Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday. And the training that they went to was developed by two law firms together, Carl Beard's law firm, and I want to say, is it Sweets? Mike Levin's law firm. They're charging a lot of money. So they're already, not only are they not giving us support, they're charging us for the trainings that are mandated, a lot of money. And we still have a lot more people to train. So welcome to public education.
so that will be on the agenda then tomorrow night.
I think any of the policies related. Now, that doesn't mean we can't discuss them so that you have some preview as to what's happening, but
Okay. Now where are we? Still in policy 103 or?
I don't know so 103, do you guys need to say anything more about that between now and next week?
No, I think that both 103 and quite honestly 104 should be pushed to our next policy committee meeting. Because I think administratively, we have to sit down and dive a little deeper into them, because they're a lot more complex than previously.
Okay, so
No.
let's table 103 and 104. Everybody agreed to that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Is that you, Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Hey, welcome.
Yeah, I've been here. I just have been listening in.
103 and 104 has been tabled. Now where do we go next? We go into the 200 group?
Yeah, the 212 is me and Megan, but Megan ran to help people get their new phonics curriculum materials.
I'm here too.
So basically what 212 is reporting student progress. And the only change that we would like to make to this is under the guidelines, the very bottom in red. We already passed a school calendar that moved our marking periods in the elementary from trimesters to quarters. We talked about it at the board table, but then I discovered the board policy actually had stated the trimesters. So what Megan and I just felt that we didn't need to change anything else about the policy other than just updating it to match what we're actually doing in practice with this year's board approved calendar. And so that is the elementary and secondary are both in progress will be reported 4 times per year. We actually pulled out the intervals of less than 9 weeks because sometimes marking periods are not exactly 9 weeks based on how holidays and calendars fall. Sometimes there's different things. So we just felt 4 times per year would be appropriate. And then inconsistent with my
Quick question.
superintendent goal. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. In case things change in the future, do you want to keep it exactly the way you have it, but at the end, maybe a qualifier, or up to the board of directors in cooperation with the superintendent or something, change so you don't have to keep, so it stays a little more flexible? Or does
Well, I
it,
think the flexibility comes in the administrative regulations that goes with it.
okay.
But we don't really need flexibility as long as we have 4 marking periods. That gives us a lot of flexibility.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really just cleaning this one up a little bit and making sure that our elementary is covered under the same statement that our secondary was previously. So it won't mean any sort of changes for our teachers or anything like that. It's just cleaning up the language a little bit.
And then moving on to the administrative regulations. These are not board approved, but it's just a goal to have the administrative regulations prepared and ready to go for the policy adoption. So what that means in our draft AR, is that available to them, Tracy?
I don't think I pulled it in there. You sent it to me, right?
Yeah,
Can you give me policy numbers so I can follow it?
212.
It's still 212.
But the administrative regulations, while Tracy's working on that, Megan and I went through them. They're not very long. They just look like this long. And basically what they say, I actually made a copy here, Wayne.
Thank you.
Basically, it defines that district staff will contact parents or guardians and through telephone, email, individual conferences, written progress reports, and that progress reports will be sent midway through each marking period for every student that's having difficulties, or for any student that's having difficulties. If the student is actually failing at that point, then the teacher is required to notify the parents. This is a very common practice in school districts, but having it defined in the administrative regulations puts some teeth behind what the principals can enforce in their buildings. And then the grade reports are accessible at the end of each marking period. It refers to elementary level conferences, parent-teacher conferences once per year at the end of the first marking period, which is always reflected in the school calendar. And let's see. Secondary, middle school, and high school teachers can arrange individual parent-teacher conferences as necessary, but we're not blocking them in the school calendar. And parents or guardians must be notified no later than the end of the third quarter if there is any possibility that a student may not be promoted to the next grade. And all communication to families regarding student progress must be conveyed in a culturally appropriate manner, including but not limited to translation and readability. And that was the last line that Megan and I added that was not in the PSBA recommendation.
Okay, so it sounds like the only thing I missed was, and I'm assuming this is standard practice, but I just didn't hear it. When these reports are made and the principal does their steps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Dr. Martin, does that mean that you also get a copy of that report, or are you sort of at the tail end until something major happens?
I would not traditionally get a copy of student progress report. I could ask for a report of how many progress reports were sent, that type of things, but that's typically handled at the building level. And if there is an issue that a parent may contact, let's say a parent contacts a principal and says, my child got a failing grade at the end of the marking period. The teacher had no grades in there. I was never contacted. There was difficulty. And now it's too late because they have an F. And then the parent calls the principal. The principal should have the authority based on the administrative regulations and guidance here and the board policy to rectify the situation with the teacher, could be a letter of reprimand, whatever happens with the teacher. If the principal were not actively addressing the situation and then the parent called me, now I've got a problem because now I've got a principal who didn't follow the rules or a teacher who didn't follow the rules. So then I would have to address it accordingly. So the administrative regulations give our principals guidance and direction as to what they need to follow. And then I hold them accountable for that. And then they hold their teachers accountable.
I'll be honest with you. You guys have done a terrific job. Because of things that happened in the past, this has nothing to do with anyone here. Okay. The checks and balances with the principal to the superintendent in regards to parents and the children. I just hope you have enough that you feel comfortable with the checks and balances. So things that happened in the past about not being notified, et cetera, that won't happen anymore.
Well, we're changing a culture. So it starts with the policy and the administrative regulations and then implementing them consistently and then, just holding people accountable and it just becomes part of the culture. And usually when you have a change, and I don't know if this is much of a change, my guess is it's been inconsistently implemented across the district. So consistent implementation takes time, and that's not to say that people won't make mistakes, but when they do, having it clear in the policy and in ARs helps us hold people accountable more specifically.
Yeah,
Okay, policy 212 will be on the agenda tomorrow night for what? First reading or second reading?
It would be first read. It's up to you if you want to approve it or not. We're going to 4 marking periods anyway. If you'd rather not jam it through, it's not going to change any behaviors because I can implement the ARs anyway.
I'll do whatever is the wish of the, how do you feel about Elizabeth or Jeff?
Hey, I think let's just clear it, get it done. I think they've done a terrific job. I feel really confident with it. I'm good.
I am too. I think like Jackie said, there's not, I don't think this is drastic changes here. I think a lot of this stuff has been pretty much done in the past. And I think we go ahead and approve it.
Okay, we'll put it on the board agenda tomorrow night for final approval. Okay with everyone?
Yep.
Okay, can I go back to policy number 203, which has to do with HIV, immunization, communicable diseases and so forth, which I guess we have to be concerned about. And there are massive changes here. Whole new section added here. Is that right, Christina?
There really aren't massive changes. It's just updating in relation to the whole COVID issue where we're seeking guidance from the PA Department of Health. And I don't like that I can't switch, go through this. And we're like, if we have a health and safety plan that the board has to pass, like coming back to school or the return to play, that we're seeking the guidance of the PA Department of Health and other avenues to make those decisions, and that the board would approve those guidelines that we set forth, our health and safety guidelines. So that's really all that one is. It's just updating that we'll seek guidance from the PA Department of Health. The board will approve our health and safety plan if need be. And that if your kid has a fever, that you need to come pick them up from school, and that we have to have emergency contacts on file, which we're working on a new way of getting updated, accurate information from our families, which we often don't have. So we have a process for that now too. So they're really just
So in summary, then what we're doing is, since COVID is a new thing we have to add to our vocabulary
Yep.
nowadays, we're adding all the state guidelines from the State Department of Health, State Department of whatever,
Right.
all those guidelines adding to this policy.
And they're not specific to COVID in this policy. We're not adding that, but our processes in response to what we've had to do for COVID, that's what we're adding.
Okay. Can we pass that tomorrow night on final passage? Does anybody object to that?
Well-
No, I think it's fine, but I just want to make sure that, I mean, it sounds like everyone feels really comfortable with it. That's correct, right? I mean, Jackie and Mark and Christina, everyone feels really good about this and no extra problems or anything, right?
Yeah, it updates. I think it's just really more procedural, as it basically updates our policy to reflect the fact that a pandemic could in fact happen. So yeah, I feel fine putting it through tomorrow. Is there any that are also connected to that, Christina, or is that the only one related to?
No, there's just 2 ARs that are procedural.
Okay, I will review more in depth the ARs. I haven't had a chance to read them, but I will review them. But again, they're not board approval items.
Okay, so if everybody's agreed with what that'd be on the board, send it tomorrow night for final passage. Adoption. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think we need to have this in place before the school year starts anyway, so.
Okay. Any other policies in the 200 series that we must go over?
39.
Where did that one come from?
Foreign exchange order?
Who put that on, Trace?
I pulled that off the PNN.
Oh, I haven't had a chance to read it. One of the things that we discussed earlier before we were starting the meeting, and you said it was choppy. You could kind of hear we were talking, but it was choppy. I was
Right.
kind of doing my drawing on the whiteboard. You could picture that being here in person. Is that the PNN is I forget what it stands for, but basically it's the service from PSBA
I don't see it.
that sends us policies that should be reviewed and updated with recommendations. And so, for example, they'll push them out once a month. What I would like this policy committee and the chair to consider is taking those policies, our administrative team, we would routinely review those prior to putting them on the policy meeting agenda, but we would routinely bring them forward. And then we would routinely move them to first read, second read, and so forth through the board meetings. And that way we wouldn't be doing this jamming things in at the last minute unless legislation dictates that to us. So that was just my suggestion for getting a little more organized as a policy committee. And that's going to require our team to be more organized going into all these meetings.
So under normal circumstances, then let's say the PSBA sends its policies in August, the policy committee meets in September to consider that. Goes to the board meeting for first reading in the September meeting. If that's possible, depending when the policy committee meets. Next board meeting then will be the final, the second reading and approval.
I think for the most part, you could approve things on second read. I don't think there's anything that says you have to have multiple reads, but routinely that gives people time to do their homework, I guess, and do the reading. There's a lot of reading when you do policy updates.
Okay, is this something that requires any formal action?
I don't think so. I think it was just my suggestion to kind of let you know when we bring policies forward to the meeting agenda monthly that we didn't just pull them out of thin air, that there was a rationale as to why we wanted you to address these policies. And then in addition to the policies PSBA puts out, again, any legislative changes that would require policy change, or anything else, such as this reporting of grades that I just discovered was not in alignment with our school calendar choice. So
Okay, any questions, Elizabeth or Jeff?
he wants to know if you have any questions.
Yeah, Jackie, you said that PSBA sends these out to you on a monthly basis, the ones that they feel that you need to address?
They do, and they do it in the form of us. We have to log into a specific thing, and it's actually in board docs. And I'm wondering, Tracy, do the board members have access to that too?
I thought they should, but I'm not positive.
So
If they want to get in there and check,
if I go into, and again, it's just something I need to routinely do because I have not been routinely doing
they
this.
can see my screen.
And Tracy's gonna walk you through her screen and show you where it is, under policies.
Okay,
Yeah, we have access to it. I mean, I do. Drafts.
And then see when that's what she's showing them.
I see. Okay. Well, this would be helpful to be able to go in there and see what they're recommending.
It was actually really cool when they did the training for this software. And I know Tracy knows all about it. It was actually, whoever put it together, it's really super easy, and it's, so far I haven't had any problems. I'm real happy with it. Simple.
If you look at this new one they just sent for August, there are a lot of policies on there.
Yeah, whole list.
Okay, so what keeps receiving those when the PSBA sends those? We can expect an email prior to the next policy.
With the exception that we have an overachiever in the room, Christina Manning, who 2 months ago, when she was notified of these policies by Tracy, she actually did review them and has proposed that I think you should talk to them because she feels that we could move them forward because she's already reviewed them. I haven't reviewed them, but
Well,
she said they were pretty simple.
Yeah, policy 239 is our foreign exchange policy.
Are you unmuted?
And I don't know if Tracy can share that or not. But basically, we put in that if someone wanted to apply to be a foreign exchange student here, that they would need to do that as soon as possible. And they have to be between the ages of 16 and 19 to be considered a foreign exchange student. And if they are a graduate in their native country, that they can then come here immediately following. So like they couldn't graduate over there and then 2 years down the road decide they want to come here to be a foreign exchange student. It would have to be immediately following their graduation there. We'll only admit them if we have room, which I'm sure we will, but that's in policy. We have to have a statement from the host family saying that they accept responsibility for these kiddos and that they're not receiving profit for them being here, and that we encourage them, of course, to participate in activities and athletics, and that we would issue them a diploma following a successful completion of graduation requirements.
Okay, can we put that on tomorrow night's meeting?
I don't see why you couldn't pass that one. It's not anything major, but that's up to you.
I think that's one that could be passed. I think it's pretty cut and dried as far as what the expectations are.
When we first started working on this one, this was before the pandemic started. And I personally don't think it's necessary, but have you guys talked about whether or not any wording should go in there as far as pandemic, quarantine, I mean, for future, or just, it's obvious, if it's a federal law or state law, you wouldn't add anything, right? I mean.
He said it's a state law and federal law would override our local policy anyway, so it wouldn't be
So we don't,
necessary.
right, don't mention it. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you. I'm really happy about this. Like I said, last time we talked about this, I wish we had 50 exchange students. Okay, thank you.
I mean, I don't know, Wayne, if the committee wants to review 247, 249, 252, those policies, the major change in all of those have to do with Title IX. And I would say the same thing with 317 and 824, two of the policies that I brought forward for the committee. They're adding a section or a paragraph to the policy dealing with Title IX. So it would align with the new regulations and the new law is essentially what those policies and the changes that are being recommended in them are.
So can we put that tomorrow night's meeting, that policy 247, 248, 249 will comply with Title IX? We pass that as a.
Yeah.
Can we pass all those together?
Well, I would say that the blurb that we're going to pass would supersede any of these policies and would cover then the new Title IX regulations. I don't know if we want to just wait and when we pass the new Title IX stuff, that we do it all as one package, since those changes all revolve around Title IX.
So put these three on hold right at the moment and waiting for the Title IX regulations.
I would say 247, 249, 252, we could wait for the Title IX policies to be passed, because again, the blurb that the board will pass tomorrow night will cover it regardless. And the same thing with 317.1 and 824. Those 317 is educator discipline, which again just throws in a paragraph.
Okay, let's hold off till we get three.
Okay.
So 247, 249, and 252.
Wayne wants to know if you're okay holding 247, 249, 252 with the package of all the Title IX stuff that we put through together. Mark
And-
explained there's only simple changes that say in compliance with these Title IX laws and legislations.
Would that also be?
It sounds like the same thing he's going to say, Mr. Koch, is similar for 317 and 824, which are your two remaining policies.
I personally think it would be cleaner to do it that way. Just do them all in one group.
Okay, so we'll put those three on hold until the Title IX regulations come out. And we'll pass them all as one package. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay,
Sounds good.
anything else under the 200 period you covered?
I had a quick question, and I hate to throw a monkey wrench in this, but there's a new one here on head lice. Not that I'm saying it's a priority, but is that still a problem in schools, head lice?
Always is,
Really? Ugh. Okay.
especially this time of year.
Ugh.
I don't personally have a problem with head lice anymore. Anything else under the 200 series? Ready to go to 300. Okay, Mark, what, 317, and what was the other one?
Well, the only 300 one is 317.1, educator misconduct. And again, the only change to it is a paragraph that is added about Title IX, sexual harassment and other discrimination. Essentially, the policy will now specifically enumerate information dealing with Title IX and how those complaints are to be handled.
So 317 would be lumped into the package we're going to pass when the Title IX comes out.
Yes.
And one other one under the 300 that's lumped into that package.
That one I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, that's
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only had one 300 policy.
Okay, anything else under the 300 category you can cover? Ready to move on? Okay, let's go on to the 400 section. I'm sorry if this seems like a railroad train, but that's what I'm operating. My computer goes from the 300 to the 600.
That's right.
Okay, so we go to 600 category, finances. Anything to be covered under the 600, I suppose Susan, that should be here then.
I don't think there's anything to update in the 600s.
Nothing under 600. Any questions?
I have a quick question. Obviously, I
Okay.
haven't read these. Is it possible, what do you think, Dr. Martin? Is there any, would it be helpful if Susan took a quick look at these, maybe sometime in the future, and if she had any?
Well, the goal is if we are keeping up with our new process, then whatever administrator needs to be here would be present at the meeting to help answer questions and would also review the policy prior to the meeting.
Okay, okay.
So we only have one more policy on, but we're not to the 800 yet.
Okay, so you don't think having Susan look at the finance ones?
Yeah, and any administrator for any policy that comes up that's related to anyone's job responsibilities, I would have them review it
Okay,
as necessary.
okay,
She's
now I
not here
understand.
because there's no 600s on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, got it.
Do you have any concerns, Elizabeth, under the 600 category?
No, me personally, like I said, I have not taken the time to read them, shame on me, but finances is, always a interesting thing. I find them always very interesting on finances, so.
Okay, well, between now and our next policy committee, you read those and come with concerns, I'm sure I can count on you to bring them to us.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go on to 700 property, anything to cover there? I'm getting a lot of head shaking.
Nope, no 700s.
Tom or Elizabeth, anything?
No,
I deeply apologize. I wasn't quite sure where our meeting was going to go today. We have a goal, and I didn't really read these yet, but I am really interested as far as, well, I'll read later, the 710, 712, 709. I am, building security, building access. I am definitely interested. I'll read those later. Thank you.
Okay, we'll revisit these again if we have to. But what you're gonna do is review the whole set of policies between now and next month, right, Elizabeth?
My goal is 10. My goal is 10. So,
The board goal was to use a whole year to do it, not in 1 month, Mr. Overachiever.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got this railroaded high gear.
no laughing at me.
He's got a
then.
runaway train going on.
Huh?
I think it's a runaway train.
Okay, going on to 800 series, what do we have concerns here?
This one, and it's 824.
Dr.
Yeah.
Martin, you're on.
824 is maintaining professional adult-student boundaries, and from my understanding from what Mr. Kondo has shared with me, that this is another one I could just say ditto for, that's connected to the Title IX changes. It's a big policy, so we recommend the same thing, just holding it for the total package.
Yeah, and this one, it is rather elaborate, but again, it is born out of the Title IX stuff. But it deals specifically with our professional staff, all employees really, in terms of professional communication, and professional boundaries with students. So again, I would suggest we tackle this along with the Title IX package of policies.
Strangely, my computer goes up to the policy at 819, and it skips to 826, so 824 is not on my computer for some reason.
It's not, apparently it's not on the website.
It's on Board Docs. If you log into your personal, it should be boarddocs.com.
I
Okay.
just wonder if you're in drafts.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta be in drafts. All the way over.
No, mine's in the regular ones. Mine says.
Yeah, me too. I don't
the
have
same
it on.
as Wayne.
I don't know what I'm in.
I don't have it either.
800 is the 800 series. So the 824 will be put on hold. Anything in the 900 series?
I just had a quick comment on 824. I'm so sorry.
Elizabeth's talking.
I haven't read the full thing yet, the document, but something that just popped, this will be between Mark and administration. When I'm going through this, because of their employee contracts, I just want to make sure that they coordinate with what we can do. If they cross the line and they do any of these things, that the contract will allow, that they make together, that they, you know what I'm saying?
Conflict.
If this policy is passed, that it's going to coordinate equally with their contract. Just to make sure that like this inappropriate touching and things like that, when it's all listed, that's all I'm asking, is that we just make sure, that's all. Yeah, I'm sure it will, but just in case. I just want to make sure that if anyone is alleged to do any of these things, that the district has the power to get rid of these people or do whatever. That's what I mean. Is it powerful enough?
Okay.
I did see something in the 900s that we could address. Do we have to make a motion if we delete a policy? Does that take board action to delete a
Say
policy?
yes.
So in the 900s, I'm just noticing that's the community and parent involvement, and there is a 917.3 for Dickey Elementary, which I believe we should take a motion to delete.
Okay, let's put that on the agenda to delete. Sticky, what policy number is that?
917.3.
917.
There's also, Sugar Valley is on here.
Okay, so we have to update to remove any elementary schools that we closed. And mine goes to 917.1 and skips the,
Well, Lamar Township's on there too.
Title I, every school has their own Title I policy procedure. And it's interesting because there's 917 and then there's 918, which is what I got. And those are like specific to each school. They haven't been updated.
Yeah, they're very, very old.
forever. So I brought that to Tracy's attention the other week. Because I think that's something that might be in Rowanda's world.
Yeah. I'm going to do a little more let me do some exploration with the 900s, and maybe we'll tackle that next time.
okay, we'll put 900 on hold then.
Yeah, let's tackle 900 next month.
Okay. And that's as far as my computer goes. Is there any of your computers go any further?
Nope, that's it. But then a lot of those 900 policies haven't been touched since 2003.
Okay. So your homework assignment committee, and my homework assignment is to at least study the 900 policies to bring them up to date. We eliminate Sugar Valley, eliminate Dickey, and I don't know if Lamar Township's here anywhere. Yeah, it is.
My guess is there's a PSBA recommendation somewhere in the archives that was missed over the last 17 years.
Yeah. So, choir board, just to put on the record that we deleted them. Okay, anything else to bring up as good of the order?
No, I think then for the September agenda, we'll look at the, any additional, all the Title IX policies we discussed today, any other PSBA policies that came in over the summer that we feel pertinent to add to the September agenda, as well as the 900s review. So we'll try, what I'd like to do is try to get the agenda established about a week ahead of time so that there's time for people to prep. I'm not very fond of us whipping it together at the last minute. I don't feel prepared. So I'm going to try to get our team ready and prepared to get you proposed agenda items, Mr. Koch, at least a week in advance.
Okay,
We'll do some legwork before we get to this meeting.
things that
That would,
events have occurred that beyond our control, that,
There may have been a few things that have been occurring.
and there may be a few events in the future, like when the state legislature balances things up. Well, I'm sure we'll have to attend to that.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything to bring up as good of the order?
no,
I think if we continue meeting via Zoom or partial Zoom, partial in person, we need to set up a Zoom room. This was a little difficult because then you get the feedback and so forth. So we need one Zoom screen for folks at home and the way we do for board meetings. So we'll work with the technology on that.
Will that Zoom room probably be the boardroom?
Our goal was to have it be the boardroom, but the boardroom is being done by our own workers, our own maintenance crew. And they've also taken on the project of renovating the the principal offices at the middle school while everything was torn up. It made sense to fix that too and get the asbestos out of their offices. So they've been stalled out on the boardroom project.
So they can only do one thing at a time, right?
Well, and they're down about 3 people. So,
Oh dear, okay.
yeah.
All right, anything
Well-
else?
Yeah, Elizabeth's waving her hand.
They're down 3 people? Is that, I mean, are these?
They're
why-
actually down about 7 people. We have 3 vacancies and we have some other people who are out on leaves and we don't have substitutes.
Isn't that, isn't,
We're
what
working on it.
do we need the board to do so we can not have this problem anymore?
We're working on it.
Okay, okay, I mean, I know you are, but that's news to me and I'm not happy. I mean, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. But those are the people on the foundation that we, especially now, we need those folks.
We've been doing a lot of things to try to get them hired. We've been talking to the personnel committee and some of the things that I think, isn't there an increase in substitute pay, which you are already addressing? So that was part of the discussion.
Okay,
well, I know that,
And Tracy's got 3 new hires coming.
Coming.
But yes, hopefully we'll be in our boardroom. I don't know if we'll be there by September.
it's
But if
not.
we're not
that's
there, in there by September, we still need Zoom room temporary set up in here because I think this is very difficult to have all the, we can do better with the technology if we're going to meet in this fashion.
Right, well, honestly, as far as the board member meeting facility goes, that, to me, that's like the lowest priority.
That's why it's on hold.
So don't worry about it.
Okay, for the good of the order, for the record, the next policy committee meeting I have scheduled is September the 9th, Wednesday, September 9th at 10 a.m. Is that
Yep.
clear?
Yep,
And okay with you,
Thanks.
Jeff?
as far as I know, that should be all right.
Okay, so policy committee meeting will be on September 9th at 10 a.m. Okay? There's nothing else to bring up. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate it.